What is going on, everybody? It is another Pop Culture Crisis movie review. My name is Brett. I am here with my Pop Culture Crisis co-host. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, Crisis Actors. It's Mary. Boy, am I glad I didn't have to go to the movie theater for this one. I'm glad this is on streaming.
We are here to review Five Nights at Freddy's, which just came out. It's a Blumhouse production. Yes, oddly enough, it is day and date, which means you could either go to the theater to see it, or you could watch it on Peacock. And I chose to. We had tickets, but I ended up watching it on Peacock after the fact. Because I was here late working, so.
Yes, we watched it digitally.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. So this movie, it's based on a video game franchise, a very, very successful video game franchise.
Is that like big enough that everyone kind of knows by now? I mean, it was mostly popular with middle school and high school age children in the mid 2010s.
Like most of the reviews that I saw, which by the way I watched after the fact, I waited till I was done because I didn't want it messing with my thoughts, were people who said, like, if they reviewed it, they're like, look, I didn't play Five Nights at Freddy's, but I know enough about it to know what it is. So This is a movie in which a character named Mike, he is fighting for custody of his sister, Abby, from his evil aunt, who's the best character in this whole movie as far as I'm concerned.
It's not even an evil stepmother, it's an evil aunt.
She's an evil aunt, and he's got to find a job because he's got to prove that he can take care of his sister, and he gets a job at Freddy Fazbear's working the night shift security. If you've played the games, obviously. Like, I imagine there were tons of references in this movie that I just didn't get.
I mean, I watched multiple YouTubers playing the game. I never played it myself, so I thought I would get some basic references that were made, but I feel like they veered off so far from the basic premise of the game to make it more engaging in the storyline.
The other storyline here is the character of Mike's search for answers with his brother from his childhood that could have been cut out completely from this movie.
That would be one thing if we actually found out how his brother disappeared by the end, but I'm still lost.
Guys, we may venture into spoilers here. This is a weird one, and I'll tell you why. I don't know if I ever found a period in this movie where I knew what I was supposed to feel about it. Every character felt walled off and distant except for Matthew Lillard's character, which oddly enough ended up being the bad guy at the end. Again, we gave your spoiler alert. And he is, as far as I'm concerned, given all the other characters in this movie, he is his acting chops show him to be far and above. Him and Evil Aunt, the evil aunt, they're such good actors that their limited screen time actually bothered me. Like,
Josh Hutcherson, being the protagonist of the story, didn't do that great of a job.
So I thought he did fine as being kind of emotionally like tired all the time. Like, does that make sense? Like, he seems emotionally tired all the time.
Yeah, this review says the protagonist sleeps a lot because he believes the answers lie in his dreams. You will want to sleep because the film is boring.
I will say this, the hero of this movie, if it's not Matthew Lillard's character, it's the animatronics. It's the live action animatronics. The only time I wanted to be watching the movie was when the animatronics were on screen.
Which was surprisingly not much of it,
Because this wasn't done CGI. This was done with Jim Henson's Creature Shop, which means likely was very, very...
well, there were people inside those suits aside from Foxy, whose animatronic is visible. Like, Foxy that couldn't have been a lot of
its animatronics run by like 6 or 7 people when they're moving on the outside there. The one you're talking about, yes, there is a person on the inside, but
a lot of them were shots from above the waist or just the feet.
That's when the movie was at its best. Anytime they were on screen, anytime they interacted with the sister, with Abby, I thought that stuff was great. It's like the movie, it kind of suffered from the same thing that A Haunting in Venice did, which means that, first of all, I made a tweet last night after watching this, in X, said jump scares were never cool. It's like they weren't even jump scares. They were like jump bleh. Like they tried to scare you with like quasi jump scares, and The Haunting in Venice did this too, and it just wasn't scary.
The whole horror aspect of the video game is jump scares.
Yeah.
So it would have been nice to at least expect jump scares in the movie. The movie doesn't have that, and it also is completely bereft of suspense.
And it's confusing.
I felt 0 moments of suspense
Okay, so
there was nothing scary about this, and yes, it's PG-13,
Yeah,
so I get that they can't have as much gore or as much language, but I mean, that would have been bad for their bottom line because a lot of the fans of the franchise are young.
I still think they should have risked it and just made it rated R and made it a gore fest. I understand that it goes against the marketing for the movie, for the target demo, but it made 10 million last night on a Thursday, which means that I'm assuming most of the people that went are adults. And this franchise has been around long enough that plenty of people have grown up probably into early adulthood with it. And it just, when you get to see these scenes in which the animatronics are offing these people, I feel like if they had been able to make it more plentiful and more visual, it would have appealed to more people. But the story in the background, the story with the other characters, when they're not actually at Freddy Fazbear's, it's so anemic and empty and boring. The girl who plays the cop, she's beautiful, she's whatever, but she's just, it's so boring.
She's the manic pixie dream cop.
Yes, she's the manic pixie. That's perfect. Yes, that's exactly what she is.
I was so confused by the fact that she was there. Why wasn't he even questioning who she was or why she wasn't doing her job as a cop?
Yeah.
Like, she's just hanging out and just shows up at random and is suddenly interested in his life, and we can't tell if there's supposed to be a romantic subplot between them, and that never comes to fruition either.
Nope.
Yeah, and then it's never explained why her father was his career counselor. Like, does this guy, he's the same guy that got him the job, right?
Yes.
So he already knew this guy. It's never explained, like, does this guy just have an intense obsession with Mike and his family for the past 2 decades?
Yeah.
Who is he? Yeah. Like, why does it matter to him? He abducted his brother 20 years ago? And that's just, and then he becomes his job recruiter.
And it never really connects.
What?
It never, there's also like I still think that the age thing is funny because like I always think of Matthew Lillard just permanently in his like early 30s or late 20s, but he's like in his 50s now. It's because I grew up watching. He played Stu in the first Scream movie in 1996. Yeah. So I see him, and he's great in this movie. Like when you get to see his scenes at the end, you get to see what could have been if they had found. They probably couldn't afford to have him in more than what they had him in, but he needed to be in more of the movie.
Yeah.
His character needed to be in more of the movie. He doesn't come back
Another
till the
thing
end.
that just doesn't make sense is his aunt's vendetta against him. Like, why does she want custody of the sister? Why does she have it out for him so much so that she'll just find a random group of people that he is acquainted with and hires them to get him fired? They go to trash Freddy Fazbear's when he's not even on his shift.
Yes.
That doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't they break in when he's supposed to be protecting the place?
And I thought, I was like, why don't they just break into his house?
I thought that the babysitter was sympathetic to him and that she was having some kind of moral dilemma about it. And then she gets killed way earlier on than I thought she would.
Honestly, they may end up making, no matter what this movie does at the box office, it will likely get a sequel because it made its money back just in its distribution rights. Mm-hmm. So the cost of the movie's already at even in going into profit now, according to Blumhouse.
I just don't get it because it's not living up to its potential at all.
It's got the same cinematography style. It's got that same Blumhouse cinematography style as other films. I did think it had like an almost Cocaine Bear-esque feel to it, but without the fun. But
not funny.
But without the funniness or the fun, right? But I did think that the cinematography was beautiful. I thought all the stuff shot inside the actual Freddy Fazbear's looked fantastic. Like, it looked great. It looked slick. The production value was high.
The premise of the game is the guy is doing his job and he has to survive the night. And then by 6 a.m., the animatronics are not alive anymore. They're not haunted anymore. Yeah. And then he gets out alive. That wasn't even part of their logic in this movie. The animatronics are alive and present at all times of day.
Also,
he's hardly ever even at his job during the movie.
It goes on over multiple days. I get it.
Is it 5 nights?
Yeah.
Or is it not? I couldn't tell.
And Jeremy Johns made an interesting point, and normally I wouldn't like to bring up another review. He says it makes more sense for this to all take place in one night.
Yeah. But I mean, his sister also, like, what was this
She was autistic, but not autistic. What was she like?
She was very annoying, and I couldn't tell if I was a bad person for disliking her. And then she like took down this drawing of what was his name? I can't remember what his name was. Vanessa's father.
Steve Raglan.
She pulls down this drawing of him with a bunch of children off of the wall, and then suddenly the animatronics.
Will Afton.
Will Afton. Yeah. They suddenly know that he's evil, and then they turn against him.
Yeah. Because
of the magic of drawing.
Yeah.
What?
Like you said, it just felt very unfocused to me. It felt unfocused and anemic. It didn't have it. It really needed way more emotional resonance.
She gets into a taxi with an animatronic there, and then the taxi driver just doesn't question it.
Also, I wrote down, and I made a point to make a note of it, where he's like, "Where are you going?" And then he freaks out with the jump scare, and then just takes off without actually knowing where he's supposed to be going.
Exactly, he didn't even ask.
Like all of these are continuity errors that take you out of it when you're watching it.
Some of the dialogue was really.
Also, I'll ask a few other questions, like wouldn't the cops investigate a bunch of people who died who knew this guy? What about his dead aunt? I mean, supposedly maybe dead aunt. You don't actually see what happened to her, but she's on the ground in the house after she gets attacked. Like, what happened to all of them?
Why did Mike suddenly have a change of heart where he was willing to give up custody of his sister, and then that didn't happen?
He instantly takes it back. He's like, yes, I'll give up custody of her, and then says, no, I won't give up. I thought that was actually an interesting concept. I thought there was something there that they just didn't explore properly, like the choice to sacrifice Abby for like the relationship he longs for from Garrett, his brother, right? That's interesting, but you didn't do a good enough time of fleshing any of these characters out to make that actual emotional quandary matter. Mm-hmm. It just
I never got the vibe that Mike was interested in Vanessa.
No, not.
She just
really
showed up.
I feel like they don't know how to do that anymore.
They don't know how to do anything anymore.
There was no chemistry between them.
This is based on a video game. It did not need to be this complex or heavy material. It didn't need to be this whole winding storyline about childhood trauma and dream theory and autism and all of this stuff. Like, you don't need to pull in all these different topics. It's a movie based on a very simple premise. Yeah. He doesn't need to have a sister. He doesn't need nothing. We don't really need to know much about the guy.
Also, I liked the use of the old technology, the 80s technology in the.
It's set in the 90s, right?
But like, and then it's old technology in Freddy Fazbear's, but then it's set in the 90s because they're using cordless or like
he's using cassette
wired
tapes
phones and cassette tapes and stuff like that. I thought it was fine. It was very anemic. I wouldn't watch it again. I liked the second half more than the first half. If I had to give it a positive, I'd say the more that the actual animatronics were on screen, seeing that live action was at least very, very like, oh, at least they're not CGIing this crap.
Megan did the animatronic creepy doll thing way better earlier this year, or was that last year?
That was the beginning of this year, I believe.
Yeah, this year, not during the Halloween season. Did it way better than this.
Yeah,
way better.
It just didn't really work. It felt like the music also just was supposed to evoke Stranger Things because of the time.
Yeah,
period.
but then I mean, there was such a missed opportunity for a montage scene where he gets equipped with like the electrocution thing, the taser, like a montage with like one of the Vocaloid songs that goes with the theme of the video game. And there was no like gearing up.
Because the movie was taking itself too
seriously. There was no build up to any of it. There was
no fun.
There was nothing fun about it.
The movie took itself too seriously.
Yeah. A video game movie done right, does it have to be animated at this point?
No. I mean, no, because Sonic technically takes place in the real world.
True, they did that well.
And I like both the Sonic movies. I think that maybe if the second time around, I noticed that the director didn't really have a lot of credits. Her name's Emma Tammy. Didn't have a ton of credits to her name. Maybe like in the hands of a more accomplished, high-level indie director, this would have done better. But it didn't work for me. And it's like the second half worked a little bit, but you could have just given me the second half. The first half was just utterly pointless. It didn't matter. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. We'll see if they end up making another one. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but yeah, that's all I got for this one. Hopefully, what do we got next to review? Captain Marvel?
Probably the Marvels.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. Mm-hmm. Can't wait. All right. All right, guys, we will be back with more Pop Culture Crisis movie reviews coming soon. And make sure you check out the podcast Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's noon Pacific right here on YouTube. Check us out then. Later, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.